And we're back on another episode of Unapologetic. Trying to get some things here done so we can get the crew on. Meanwhile, if you're following the feed, go ahead and share the page for us. We have some great information here tonight. Cummings will replace you with. Cummings will replace you with. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another tough talking episode of Unapologetic. We are in the beginning stage tonight, trying to get the stream ready so we can have a conversation. Meanwhile, if you are under the feed, do us a favor tonight and just go ahead and share the link as we gear up to start this episode of Unapologetic. Meanwhile, listening to the music, and let's try to get ready. Mr. Sweet.
Fellow Parisian. Now you won't pick you. HR my constants. ANC, somebody say ANC. Cummings, somebody say Cummings. ANC, somebody say ANC. Cummings, somebody say Cummings. Alice Cummings Fraleo. Alice Cummings Fraleo. Alice Cummings Fraleo. Alice Cummings Fraleo. ANC we rally. ANC we rally. ANC we rally. ANC we rally. You can call it the people just if they let it get tougher. And I know why they making fuss. That only you we can.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to start off by saying welcome to another episode of Unapologetic. My name is Duke, and I'm telling you, tonight we are set to have another tough talking episode of Unapologetic. Meanwhile, while you're on the feed or following tonight, do us a favor, go ahead and share the link, and let's go ahead and try to have a conversation tonight. So, while we're doing just that, let me go ahead and see how best we can, play this video and bring in our team of panelists here tonight, the co-hosts, so we can get the ball rolling on this as well.
And was inaugurated into office in 2018. The president has his vice president from Bond County, Her Excellency Madam Jua Howard Taylor. So I've come to the streets of Banga to sample the views of Liberians. And I have this man here. What's your name, sir? Speak out louder, please. What do you make of President George Weah's 4 years in power since he took over in 2017?
President 4 years in power is looking at almost lives. I was cursing at the people. Nothing to be approval.
If it's a curse, could you explain further?
And as we follow, recently your President Weah can make Liberia to be a charitable because people had the money in their pocket to pay a child school fee. And that's so big out. So she open the environment for people to work to pay their own children's school fees.
The president promised to fight corruption and gave the economy back to Liberians during his speech in 2018. Has he done so?
No, he failed on that. With all your promises, I don't see anyone that you have that effective work.
So would you vote him in 2023?
No, we'll focus on we are 23. Don't join the guys and we use the brothers. We'll bring the medical program to suit the country.
You think what does voting President we are in 2023 will mean for Liberians?
Me for Liberia?
Yeah.
No. I don't even want to explain on that. Because if you vote of President we are 2023, it will be like you repeating suffering things in your life.
So what would be your advice to others who are pledging to support President we are in 2023?
And the advice to them, let look at let vote and see on the ballot price and we see a key person to form a person. We give the President we are again.
What's her name?
And it's European Nelson.
A motorcyclist.
European Nelson.
Aaron P. Nelson.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, don't put us.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there were a lot of things that was actually, stated in this video that I played for you. But not to waste your time, let me go ahead and bring my guys on here and see how best we can start, talking about, this thing. Gabriel, Peter, how are you guys tonight?
Doing wonderful, man. How are you, Duke? Looking forward to the
Man,
conversation.
listening, man, I am doing great tonight, and it's been an amazing day, Gabriel, what about you?
I'm great to be here. This is another what is it Wednesday, and I'm fired up to be here. Let's get to the discussion and have a good
And
conversation.
another Wednesday it is. I
Yeah.
absolutely and I'm glad to be here as well. And let's go, Emmanuel. How are you? Go ahead and share the link for me here too as well. So, guys, Bieta will join us shortly, but let's talk about Saturday. What about Saturday, man? It was an impressive debut, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean the feedback that we're actually getting, I did not expect that level of feedback. Not just the level of feedback, but the responses that we're getting, right? And that is evident that the message that we're putting out there is actually resonating with people. People like the things that we're talking about, the things that we're talking about, how intentional we are about the conversation that we're having, as opposed to just coming and talking about it. One thing I like to tell people: if you're talking to somebody, they can tell how passionate you are about the discussion you're having from your eyes, or how you use your voice, you know. And I think people are seeing that, and the message is actually resonating with people. So I think this feedback that we're getting is no surprise at all. But that's kudos to everybody. It's great work on everybody's part. Yeah.
Absolutely. The feedback, we had some great feedback. And Mieta is on. Mieta, my
Yes,
listening. You look a little excited today.
I
We
know,
were
right?
just we're just running into last weekend the debut. Man, my goodness. We got some real good feedback from our debut, and I was just running across the board and just asking questions. What did you think about
Um, I just want to say, like, it's not unexpected because we come on here, we come with true, we stay true to ourselves, we stay true to the Liberian people. We didn't come here to sugarcoat anything. So, like, let's do it. Mama Liberia come first. We support Mr. Cummings, but Mama Liberia come first, and I thank you guys for that.
Yes, Liberia first, absolutely. Peter, man, you look ready, my man. Peter, we want to hear you mute.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think
That's
that
okay.
the feedback, like Gabe said and Mieta has said, is indicative of how people feel. This is not about us. It's not about any individual on this panel. It is about how people are feeling. It is about how what's going on in their lives, what they feel, what they're seeing. And I think that whenever you reflect what they're saying and you're honest about it, they're going to react in a positive way. I think that's what's going on. Um, I'm going to give Cindy credit. She says, there's a quote she always says, we are the generation that we have been waiting for. Um, I think that's what our people are saying, man. We can't abdicate this role to anybody else. It's our responsibility. To whom much is given, much is expected. So since we are in a position to speak, I think we have to do our due diligence and speak for our people and try to change things for them.
Very
Absolutely,
good.
and I like to add on to that part. It takes a lot of commitment, sacrifices, to be able to do this thing constantly too. And Saturday was it was everything that I expected and even more, because you remember the days wherein when you're disconnected from Liberia or you're out of Liberia, and we didn't have the opportunity to continue to engage our people. Those are the days that you used to write letters, right, and put pictures in there and send it back home so your family members can see it. But technology now created this world for us, wherein we're able to now be involved in the process of informing our people about different things. So I think it was great. But let me just go to the audience and just shout out people, and then we'll come back to our topic here. I want to say welcome Ruth Anderson. I want to say Emmanuel Thiflin. Welcome Sierra. Welcome Roslyn Deeks. Bertha Stewart. Yes. Mohammed Sonin, Liberty Party. Welcome, my brother. And all of you who are following us on the stream as well. We come. So here's the thing. We come on live 4 times a month. So Wednesday, the second Wednesdays in the month, right? And then that third Wednesday. And then we come on radio the second Saturday and the last Saturday. We're on radio as well at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I believe 2 o'clock GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, in Liberia as well. So, guys, let's go ahead and kick this up. So, when I started the podcast tonight, um, you know, I showed a clip from Front Page Africa, and it was done in Bond County, by the way. Interestingly, we see a lot of young people in that clip responding to questions from the reporter who was doing the survey. But I think that particular clip, is appropriate for where we're going tonight, and I'm sure our audience are waiting to be able to hear from us as well. So the first thing here, many of you follow social media. You're involved. You support Mr. Cummings. You support the ANC. You support change in Liberia. There are some things that are familiar in terms of responses from people. The first thing you talk people come with those quick responses to you, and you're like, okay, right? And sometimes some of you try so hard to inform them to put points out there, but some people just wouldn't get it. Tonight, what we're gonna do is to add a little bit of sense to the conversation and make sure we're highlighting some things that will make you to understand in terms of that particular conversation, and why it is important for us to recognize those key attributes that Mr. Cummings bring in terms of leadership as well. So let's go ahead and kick it up, guys. And I will start today on this thing. One of the biggest things that we hear so frequently, Gabriel, is this thing about corporate and government experience. Being a president versus a CEO. And at one point in time, even not, let me not say at one point in time, but consistently, we've heard, people from the other side, like, oh, Mr. Cummings does not have any kind of government experience, right?
Right.
And the other guy got a lot of government experience. We need somebody who's got government experience as well. Let's start before we roll deeper into that conversation. I want you, Gabriel, to kick this thing off and let us know
Right.
when it comes to being a CEO or being in the corporate world and being in Liberia in public service. What are those things that you see, key attributes that Mr. Cummings bring, and how can you debunk some of those things to bring some sense to our listening audience here tonight?
Duke, thank you. That is a very great and deep loaded questions. And you're right. When you what not just you, everybody, when we talk to people out there about, politics, you start having conversation about politics, and Mr. Cummings' chance about, uh, you know, winning the election in Liberia. The rebuttal that you constantly hear is that, oh, he doesn't have, governmental experience, right? And it's it's a it's a fool's statement to make, because if you understand what CEOs do, you will not even want to differentiates what a CEO does from what a president does, right? And I like to take people back to the McKinsey's book that profile Mr. Cummings, right, about his leadership in Africa, how he grew Coca-Cola in Nigeria and then oversaw the entire Africa, right? There's there's this, you know, uh, similarity between CEO and president, and I mean, for especially for somebody who ran a multinational company in Africa, you know, we are aware of how bureaucratic, you know, African governments are, right? Now, being able to navigate those bureaucracies, you cannot just leave from here and say, "Oh, I want to go put a Coca-Cola factory right in Nigeria or in Lagos, in a specific areas of Lagos." Guess what? You're going to be met with a lot of challenges. People are going to push back. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? You got to talk to government official. You got to sell that to them, right? These are what a CEO in essence is the key, the most effective strategist of the company, right? You have strategy team, but he is the arch strategist of the company. He sets the direction in which the company goes, right? So being able to do that from on a continent, right? It's the same thing as a president answering to his constituents and answering to voters, right? CEO answers to the board and follows, pay attention to the customer feedback to be able to craft and hone and pitch the strategy in which the company should go. The same thing with the president of a company. The president of a country does the same thing. You listen to your voters. You cannot just come in and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You do what the voters want you to do, and you also listen to your constituents. That is, in essence, the distinction between a CEO and a president. And if you look at the two of them in a parallel sense of analysis, right? There's the only thing there is that government, they're just the bureaucracy is just too drag on, right? It's drag on. Whereas in a corporate world, there's bureaucracy, I will admit, but it's always you bring your idea, Duke. Pete bring his idea. Miata brings his idea. Let's sit down at the table and let's pick the best idea, regardless of who brought those idea, and move that idea forward. Well, in a government sense, in a government essence, that is never the case. You could have the best idea. I could have the best idea, right? But because your electability could be tied to that, you could end up voting against that, even though it might be the good idea. So that's how the bureaucracy in government and the one in corporate America differentiates. So I will take this right back to what I started with earlier. Somebody who has built a multinational company in Africa. I don't know if you guys deal with African people. I've dealt with Liberian people. Now deal with every part of the continent, south, east, west, north. Different ways, cultures, navigating different cultures, personalities, and being able to scale a company to that level. And you have the audacity, the gall to tell me that that person doesn't have governmental experience. Like, I can't sometimes when people say that, sometimes you laugh at them, but you also want to take the time in that, rebuttal to explain to them why that statement is, an ignorant statement to make.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely, Gabriel. And just adding to what you said, when I hear those things, the first thing that runs to my mind is that some people just don't understand, right? And then there are clearly some people who are just being highly political as well. But you know, one key point that I always reference is what public sector experience, because we're in Liberia today and we see all of the economic challenges that our people are facing. Some of these people have been in government for 40 plus years, 42 plus years. And imagine 42 plus years of governance or serving in public office. And in the 21st century, we are still trying to figure out how to provide safe drinking water for Liberians. We cannot even create jobs for the ordinary people. So when they say about this public sector experience, government experience versus private sector experience, it becomes laughable because at the end of the day, what exactly are we looking at or celebrating, right? When
Right.
it comes to those particular individuals who you're bragging about the public sector, sector experience, because if we go
Exactly.
down one day, agriculture failed, right?
Mhm.
In terms of governance, social issues, well, we're far behind, right? We don't even have any functional social services, right, for our people, right? We see gender inequality. We see the culture of rape, without impunity in there. We see
Yep.
our people living below poverty line. There's not any system in place to be able to help them as well, right? So all of those things, become laughable too, man. But I'm glad we get to share some light on it. Let me make this turn to Peter as well. Peter,
Yeah.
I want your thought on this here quickly.
Yeah. So just listen to you guys talk, right? And something I want to emphasize something that Gabriel just said about bureaucracies in
Mhm.
working with African countries. So not only did Mr. Cummings bring a multinational Fortune 500 company to sub-Saharan Africa with all its challenges, right? Not only does he have to deal with how it is in Africa, you have to bribe people.
Mhm.
Again, like Gabriel said, you have to understand their culture, right?
Yep.
And you have to do that at the Fortune 500 company standard, Western
Mhm.
standard. So you
Thank
have
you.
to deliver. You have to deliver at the Western standard, right? That means you got to make sure people on time, make sure products ships is shipped on time, make sure that you're growing the business, right?
Creating jobs.
It might
Yep.
not have electricity. You have to make sure how is this plant going to run? How are you going to professionalize a base of people who don't get professionalism? Because the quality control still has to be at the corporate standard, right? This man was able to do that. Gabriel is in corporate America. I'm not. So what I did was I I kind of know what a CEO does, but not really. Not as much as Duke would, not as much as Emmerich would, not as much as Gabriel. So I looked it up. The job description of a CEO. Here's what it says: acts as the figurative head of the organization when communicating with stakeholders, government entities, and general public.
Yep.
So he's the head of the corporation when
Yep.
communicating with everyone. Isn't that what the president does?
Yeah.
Stakeholders, the people who want to invest in the country, the citizens of the country, the people who works in other branches of government in that country, right? Those are stakeholders. He is the figurative head of that. It is his vision that's been out there. He communicates his vision with them.
Right.
That's exactly precisely what a president does. Okay, he leads the development of the organization long and short-term strategies. Isn't that what a president would do? The
Mhm.
vision of the country. What's our 5-year plan for the economy? What's our 5-year plan for
Yeah, but
education,
but Pete,
for healthcare?
have anybody serving in that capacity in Liberia
Oh,
presented any kind of vision?
yeah, I was going to come to that. That he's beyond qualified for what we're asking him to do because he's demonstrated that on a very high level. But I really want to go down this quickly. Go down this list,
Please
right?
do. Please do.
Um,
Right.
he managed overall operations and make major decisions affecting the organization. Isn't
Right.
that what the president does? Make major
Absolutely.
decisions and manages the country. You
Right.
make sure that these corporations are paying taxes. You make sure corruption is not going on. You make sure our police is doing what they're supposed to do and they're being held accountable. Isn't that what a president does? That's what a CEO does for his company. Okay. Um, he manages the organization's resources. Not mismanages, he manages it. This is how we get profit. Isn't that what a president does?
Mhm.
Isn't that what a CEO does? And lastly, here, negotiates or approve agreements and contracts for the organization. Isn't that what we do? Concession agreements.
Mm.
This man has done it on an extremely high level, where they're paying millions to do it. We live in a foreign country, Duke. All you guys in corporate world, I'm in academia. We know how hard it is to move up that ladder, right? Especially
Oh,
when you have an
absolutely.
accent or you're low
Absolutely.
brow.
Yeah.
This man was able to navigate. People don't understand how.
What did this say? Affirmative action?
Yeah. Some clown said that, right? Some complete clown
It
who
has to be one of the
influenced Liberia
biggest
said that.
jokes ever to think
Okay,
that a black man will beat all odds as an
African man.
immigrant, work
Yep.
his butt off, right, in the numbers driven environment.
Yes.
To say that he only excelled or went up the ladder of corporate America because of affirmative action, it has to be the silliest thing, the dumbest thing. And I hope whoever said that belongs somewhere else. Truthfully speaking, it's
Yeah.
People,
disrespectful.
I would say this: the person, if somebody says that, ask that person, how far are you? Where are you in your career path? Usually,
Exactly.
it's somebody who's at the lower end of their career path will actually make that argument because they are now saying the reason why that person got up there is because of affirmative action,
Yeah, someone
and the
who works
reason
in the
why
office
I'm not
because
able
of
to get up
what
there
that person's
is
parent did for them and
You
the
know,
connections
right.
they had. That's who said he got there through affirmative action. And by the way, they can use the same affirmative action to move up though.
Right,
They're stuck
exactly.
where they are.
well, but that's what I'm saying. So if
Yeah,
if affirmative action was only inserted to give black people a chance to work their way up to the corporate ladder, then why is it many of
millions
those who are
of
criticizing
CEOs.
having
Yeah,
used
exactly.
that easy route, right? So it tells me it's much more than being sensible in discussing these things, but it comes from
Yeah.
animosity as well. But great point, gentlemen. Let's
Well,
move on here.
hold on 1 second, Duke. I want
Yeah,
to
go
land
ahead.
on this, right?
Go ahead.
And I want to reiterate something you said. Okay, let's flip on the other end, right? So we know what he has done with distinction, right? With distinction, where you have to bow down to him. The question is, the other people who you say have experience doing what? You can have experience going to jail. Is that a good experience? Experience doing what? What's the experience? And what has that governmental experience? What type of government have they worked in? And what has that brought to our people? Like you said, Duke, we don't have
Mhm.
clean drinking water. We don't have central plumbing. We don't have electric grid that covers our country. Experience doing what? Is that what we want to continue to do for our people? We say no, and the Liberian people say no. But yeah, that's why I wanted to land, Duke.
Yeah. So yeah, great point, Pete. And all great point there. So let me hear from our lady Miara. Miara, and I want you to add your voice to this so the audience here can hear you before we go on to bond counter later on. But one another thing that we hear a lot is what has Cummings done for Liberia, and for me to think that somebody needs to do something in terms of taking personal money and putting it in your pocket should be a qualifier for leadership. Tells you how bad of a society we've become.
Mhm.
But the good thing here is those of us who understand these things will have to stand up and inform our people and just go through. So you hear this so frequently, and I want you to just chime in on this. When people say that, what comes to your mind, and what are those specific things that you can list in terms of what Mr. Cummings continues to do in his community and for the people of Liberia?
Okay, Duke. Like I always tell people, we started this thing since 2016, 2017, and we're going to keep speaking about Liberia. We're going to keep speaking about Mr. Cummings. We're not going to argue with people. We're going to tell them what Mr. Cummings has done and he continued to do. Like I said yesterday, I was on, some of us not on this social media just because we want to be. We would tell our people what Mr. Cummings has done. I was on some show yesterday, and the guy was saying, what has Mr. Cummings done for the Liberian people? What has Mr. Cummings done for Liberia? And I was like, I was writing, I said, Mr. Cummings has done so well, and he continued to do well. But because I'm from Liberia, so I'm going to talk about Liberia. I'm not from another country. Because we don't see good in other people. Some of us, they don't see good. No matter what you do, some people will not see your good. Some people, they say what Mr. Cummings done and he continued to do, but they keep asking question, what has this man done? So we don't be arguing with them. We just list what Mr. Cummings has done and he continued to do. Mr. Cummings has built a school for these Liberian kids.
Hmm.
And most of the team around Mr. Cummings is these young people. Some of them came from nowhere. He's not looking down on it. Just how he came from nothing, selling for his mom. He empowering young people.
Hmm.
But people will not see it. They keep asking the same question. What has Mr. Cummings done? Sometimes it get frustrating, Duke. I get frustrated. You get frustrated. Peter get frustrated. Um, Gabriel get frustrated. And we all get frustrated. But at the same time, we can't be frustrated with them because that's
Thank you.
our people. We just have to keep educating them. We just have to
Yeah,
keep telling them, just telling them what Mr. Cummings done. So if you ask me, that's about it. We just have to keep talking to them. And they see it
Yeah,
and then they will keep seeing it.
yeah. And
absolutely.
listen, to be honest with you, it doesn't frustrate me. I see it as an opportunity to inform people, right? Because look, one thing about me, and I would say, I'm a tough guy. I like the ones who claim to be difficult because, in terms of what I do, right? I thrive because I deal with difficult situation and I try to turn it around into something positive. What what I think is different this time than before is that, you know, the information was controlled by a certain group of people only. Now we get to go against that information to tell the people the truth, right? And I don't care how bad or how negative some people may try to be, the truth tends to move beyond the lies and the deception, right? Because truth stays consistent, lies got to be refined all the time to make it sound beautiful, and it never becomes beautiful, right? And that's the thing. So, great point. And back to that topic before we go forward to the next one, Gabriel. Now we've actually talked about the corporate experience, public sector, private sector, what have you. I like
Right.
to get into something very important because I think we have to show success stories, right?
Hmm.
One of the things that circulates on our space, academia, political, Africa as a whole, Rwanda has become this economic beacon of hope, right? Symbol, right, of economic
Yep.
success.
Yep.
And we see what Paul Kagame is actually doing to
Hmm.
refine the way they do things in that country to make them, better prepared for the rest of the world. So we
Right.
see competition being competitive. We see
Hmm.
structures being put in place. We see them realizing and going and tapping into talents across the region, right? To
Yeah. Yeah.
to make that country better. And we know about the Rwanda Financial Center as well. And
Right.
this everybody will chime in into that, but let me go back again quickly to Gabriel. So Kigami is currently using that business-like model, that corporate model, to experience the type of success, right, that he needs to see in the country. I want you to
Yeah.
elaborate on that quickly and see, how does that also tie into the strength of Mr. Cummings, and
Right.
for a country like Liberia, how could that type of leadership and that particular template be able to create the economic shift that we so desperately need amongst young people, women, and all of our people that need job and the economic, flexibilities in that country.
Yeah. No, thank you, man. If you are a journalist, you will be a tough one too, man. Your questions are your questions are always loaded and But thank you. That is a great question. And as you rightly pointed out, usually when we talk about these things, we usually go and pick countries in the southeast, right? In the Asian countries, right? And use them as a model. But in our case, you know, if we want to be competitive regionally, we have to look within the continent. We have a perfect example, as you mentioned, Rwanda. So what Rwanda is actually doing is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about it when we've been talking about creating a stock market for Liberia. Like we could have been the financial hub of the continent. We had 100 year start, right? Now the reason why I'm saying that is because that's exactly what Rwanda is doing right now. The Kigali Financial Center, right? That is being set up because their whole objective is to be the financial hub of Africa, the beacon, like everything financial. That's where they want it to be, Kigali, which is the capital of Rwanda. And you know who they picked to spearhead that? The ex CEO of Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is one of the biggest European bank investment banks in Europe, right?
Yeah.
The guy is actually an Ivorian. They picked him and brought him there to head that whole process. I think he sits on the board. He actually started a pack right now in New York that is actually investing in um, uh, other companies as well. But they brought him there to create the vision of that to make. So when you go on the Kigali Financial Center website, it gives you everything you need to know about Rwanda in terms of how to start a company, the tax law, everything you need to do to set that up. Now, the reason that is also great is because with system like that, as much as that is set up, you don't need to walk in physically into the government offices to start a company, right? You can go on that website and see exactly what you need. You can start your company from here, send them the paperwork, and that will create seamlessly online, right?
Mhm.
In addition to that, they also have uh, lawyers, law firms that can help you do that. That is, in essence, creating jobs. But the biggest thing that this center is actually doing is set up in a way to make Rwanda the financial hub in Africa, making Rwanda the financial hub in Africa. What does that mean for them, right? That means a lot of investors going in, right, to invest in our country, right? It could be the place where people park their money in Africa. If they want to invest in Africa, it could be the place where they park their money, right? Why can't we do why can't we do something like that? And these are the things that I think Mr. Cummings will bring to Liberia, right? Setting up, putting Liberia on the place that it needs to be one of the beacon of successes in Africa. We one time at one point in time we actually held that title. I think in the 60s,
Yeah.
with the whole Pan Africanism movement, but we've lost our path on that. So I think with Mr. Cumming coming in and having these network, understanding not just the network, but understanding it from a practical standpoint, I think these are some of the things that we can expect to see in Liberia in terms
I,
of making Liberia a financial hub. Right.
That's a great point. Rwanda is actually preparing their economy for global to be globally competitive. They've
Right.
actually used models to be successful. We continues to put them at the top of friendly economies for entrepreneurs. I think I saw
Yep.
Business Insider article, and they're next to South Africa. Rwanda is actually number two in terms of entrepreneurship, and that's the ease of doing business index that we talk about. Quickly before we go to our question and come there to Pete, when somebody tells us that isn't it risky? Do you just leave and become a CEO, jump and become a CEO, right, or chief, executive officer or whatever it is, financial officer in the corporate settings, versus the same thing going in like during just they're trying to draw this narrative that Mr. Cummings shouldn't just go and jump to be president. He has to be something else. Let me say this when we talk about risk associated with that, some of you need to be very ashamed of yourself because your country competitively is one of the worst in the world, right? Under the presidents that you've elected, your people are poorer than every other nation, right? So it behooves me. It is really interesting when people make this argument, but it comes from some level of not understanding things. But anyway, Peter, let's go into the next part of our conversation here now that we've covered the public sector experience and part there as well. Looking at the current government, we're going into the final year since we elected the Weah administration. Mind you, when CDC was in the opposition, they criticized that administration. They had a lot of protests. Some of the things they said that they blamed the economy on the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration. They said that the downtrodden, the masses, those impoverished young people, they said that they're not getting the fair share in terms of governance, in terms of the economy and what have you. So to sow this whole change narrative, to all of these young people. Today, at the final stage of the worst tenure of any president in the history of the presidency, George Weah and CDC's been the most disorganized government. Performance wise, they have actually poorly performed in every sector. But when you raise that issue, one of the things that some of those loyalists and some of the people say, oh, this too short of a time for us to change the country. And I know how to go with my response. But again, we want to inform our people. We're at the 5 years mark. We have not seen any kind of economic shift. Peter, is it too early? Is 5 years not sufficient to see some sort of change in Liberia per governance? What do you think about that comment?
Well, I would defer this again to Gabriel take the lead on it, but I do have an opinion on it. And this opinion comes from just understanding how other countries did it. So Gabriel gave an example of Rwanda. And he said, well, we can look within our sub-region for an example. My study has led me to look at a country like South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, those countries, the Philippines. But South Korea, what those people did was there are hallmarks that you look for to see if the government or the country has the right trajectory. Starting with education. If you look at South Korea's growth and what they did, the first thing they did was heavily invested in education, primary education, foundational education. We did the opposite. We had a president, us proud Liberians, had our leader besmirch education as if education had something to do with dishonesty. And he said, and I quote, if education was important, Liberia will have skyscrapers right now. The level of ignorance to say that and to equate being informed, that's all education is, having information with stealing from the country or taking advantage of people. It is beyond thinkable, right? We had a leader. There is no country who has been built without having education as its foundation. And then they looked at export economy, right? What can we export? Because I'm talking about South Korea. We don't have a big enough number of population to have a healthy economy. So what else can we do? So okay, what can we sell to the world? This is what they spent their time doing. You know what they didn't spend the time doing? They didn't spend the time saying what tribe someone from and what they're doing here and how long they've been in a country. And no, they sent their people out, just like Liberia has done inadvertently. And their experts came back and helped. They were heavily reliant on their experts to a point where when South Korea tried to go into the steel industry, the United States says, don't do it because you're going to be a failure. Within 7 years, South Korea was number 3 in the world. Within 2 years, they were already profiting from their steel industry. So what I'm saying is there are things that you look at. Good governance, right? They elected a president who understood that because he was a lawyer. He understood that if the money is supposed to go to X, if the money is supposed to go to roads, you don't take the money and pay a salary with it because you don't have any other revenue generator in a country, and you took the money and you went on vacation, you bought a plane with it, or you spent it on your girlfriend. They didn't do that. They were nationalists. They respected their people. They took pride in that. They actually picked someone who was actually college educated, really educated, not fake where Senator did his work for him. Like someone who knew the importance of structure, right? If you talk to those people, good governance is how this started. Then you invest in your people. And what happened, Duke? Later on, just within 5 years, those same people, the ingenuity, the things that they were taught, the foundation they had, they were able to carry the country forward. So they invested in the human capital by investing in their children. We don't hear those things from our country, from our government, right? So when you said 5 years is it too long or too short? The people who say those things don't know anything about any country who came from being poor. There are a bunch of countries who came from being poor to being prosperous. And I always talk about these southeastern countries because they are a living, breathing example. As a matter of fact, South Korea had, not only did they come out of imperialism, they had a war, just like the country that just
Rwanda?
Yeah, Rwanda did. They came out of civil war just like we did. South Korea came out of war that destroyed the entire country. They were 90% on foreign aid, and the foreign aid stopped just like ours did. So the excuse makers are just trying to enable this guy because they see themselves as do nothing just like he is.
Yeah.
So they can relate to him. That's the only reason why they're supporting it. It's not because they have studied anything or they know how a nation is built. They don't care to know how a nation is built. They never care to investigate, right? They just want to keep our people poor because they don't know the math. They don't know the formula how to do it. And now here's a guy who can actually help us. They're here making up lies about him. And we're supposed to sit back and let that happen? Never. Never.
And Peter, you know, great point there. And I like to move to Miata because the lady has to speak, right? Miata, the people say the time Joe we have been in power up to now is too short. But you and I know, right? And I want you to chime in on this, right? And you know, again, let's talk to our listening audience, and we'll come back to our people in Bond County later. They will reach to our next segment. But first and foremost, is this too small of a time, or what do you think that this government should have been doing to be successful?
I keep hearing the people saying, George, we are done well. Since we're growing up, that's all we hear. They were trophy. That's all we hear. Oh, like the national team, they win again, they now beat it. They say, I'm just saying, George, we are in my book. In my book. I don't see him doing nothing. Those things that he's doing over there, talking about he building this, he building that, we will take everything from them. I don't want to say no. We'll take everything from them. They're talking about, oh, well, George, we are being there, what? It's going what? 5?
5 years.
What has he done for the Liberian people? I see people just, they pray, sing for him, and some of our brothers and our sisters that know that this man is not even doing anything. Building houses, doing all this stuff. Liberian people don't even have food to eat. I was in Liberia in December. You cannot tell me anything. The children, you see little children in the street. I would not have my daughter. And then you can't blame the people again. The people don't have job. They don't have food to eat. They just accept anything.
Yeah.
You hear me? But I keep hearing people saying, Josh, we are doing good. And I mean, when I get on some of these live, what I be typing there is, if Liberia's so good, pack your children.
Send them there.
Pack your children. Y'all live in another man's country. Y'all live in other people's country. You live it good. You take it by with hot water. You in your refrigerator eating. But your brothers and sisters back home, you keep saying, Josh, we are doing good. And these people, they are in our inboxes. We don't want to be calling in. We don't want to be saying what we do for people. How can you, what makes a man shame? Grown men, women, they come beg you. You think they want to do that, Duke? They don't want to. But they don't have it. So they got to do it. And what we can do, just we ain't doing nothing. Let keep making songs that all we see. Playing fun out of the people.
Yeah.
Clowning the people. Me, I call them sunshine, I call him color boy. That's all we see. Blood for Joe and everything. And our sisters then, the one that wherever with him, they come and attack you. Like I tell them, come correct. Don't come here with that thing. Don't come here with that lying because you can't fool some of us.
Mm.
Maybe you can fool the ones that want to be fooled, but you will not fool us on this Liberia issue. Some of us will know our Liberia history.
Mhm.
I see what the job we are do, but building horses in our pool, what they go do, they say pool. Really? Our country is the embarrassment for us.
You're right, Beata. The country is an embarrassment,
Yeah,
and
I
you know,
just do quickly.
and
I
Gabriel,
just
yeah,
wanted to
Gabriel,
add to
go
that.
go ahead, yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Miata and Pete were just saying. There's a saying my dad always said. He said, if you can kill a man by taking away his ability to earn, right, without shooting a shot, without
Mm,
shooting him. If you want to kill a man, just take away his ability to provide for his family. You have done that without even doing anything to him, right? And just to piggyback on what Miata was saying, that's the kind of predicament our people are actually in right now, right? They have no other means of making a living, no other means. So in reality, we've taken out their dignity is gone, right? So whoever comes in front of them with whatever they can, they will tell you whatever whatever you want them to. They will tell you whatever you want them to say to you, you know. But I wanted to piggyback on the 3 years, the 5 years,
yeah,
he's been in power, and people are saying that 5 years is too short of a time. You know, the excuses we keep making for this administration or the one before is simply because we never had someone who has been intentional, right? Intentionality and being effective in terms of leading. You know, I'm not saying when Mr. Cumming comes in, he's going to switch a magic wand and everything is going to be all gravy like kumbaya. No, but by being intentional about leading, you know, you will identify those areas that if you make a change there, regardless of how small that change is, it will have a bigger impact, right? It will have a bigger impact. I'm talking about impact of expanding our tax base, right? Expanding our tax base. Um, utilizing the National Commission, National Investment Commission to attract investment into the country, right? Ireland, I always tell people this story. Ireland was in that predicament. They went out, they had people going on international road shows to attract investment. They brought in the likes of Google, Apple to come and set up shops in Ireland. They pitched their tax advantages, right? They're not doing that because they want those people to take advantage of their tax policy, even though I think we have similar tax, laws with those people in terms of the corporate tax rate, right? But the essence of that is by bringing those entities into multinational companies within the country, you create jobs for the people that are there. It creates jobs, right? It helps, it boosts the company's image. I mean, the country's image, right? Imagine if our National Investment Commission was doing similar things. I'm sure you guys are aware, they put out this pamphlet every year of industry that are reserved for Liberians and the one that other investors can invest in. That is it. Like sometimes you see it, you look at the picture, you say, oh, this is great. But what are you doing in terms of being intentional of going out there and pitching to investors, pitching to multinational companies to attract them to Liberia? We're doing none of that, right? So you bring somebody in, uh, like Mr. Cumming, who has had the experience of creating jobs across Africa, right? Those are the key areas you can look at too, right? The same thing with the National Insurance Commission.
mm,
At, an entity that could be a cash crop, right? Imagine you say within the next year, you want to require every car on the road to have insurance. I'm not saying we should do that, but that could be a requirement, right? That's massive revenue generation, massive, right? The list core, we always talk about that, the one that oversee the maritime. Why do we think we can't train Liberian to run that entity? The corporate tax rate that they're getting in terms of the fees that we charge every ship to carry our flag. Our country has the second largest fleet carrier flags running around. Panama is number one. Liberia is second, right? So the reason why you hear people talk about these things is because we don't have people who are intentional, and we have people who have never been held to higher standard to execute in terms of being productive in a corporate world, or held to a standard where you have to produce, right? Imagine somebody doing that for over 40 years. That because they have been doing it over and over, they've been producing effectively over and over and over for them to be able to get to where they are.
Yeah,
So people
imagine
tell
if you
you
did
that
it for the 2 years and you have been unproductive.
we can't even plant rice farm in low-fi. Why
I
make it?
don't want to.
We just get it, put colors and rubber boots and stuff. We say, go,
let,
no
let me let me
plan.
land real quick, right?
Go ahead, real
Let,
quick.
let me land real quick. Now,
The
imagine
Kanye
somebody who's
West
been
boost.
imagine imagine somebody who's been doing that for over 40 years over their career, and you bring them and put them in. Liberia revenue is, what is it, 500,000, 500 million. That's chump change compared to the revenue that Mr. Cummings was overseeing. You put somebody like that over a country like that, within a matter, I would say, three years tops, 18 months top, you will start seeing some changes, impactful changes within that country. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I yield.
I want to say this,
Thank you,
Duke, real
Gabriel.
quick, real quick,
Yeah,
Duke.
go ahead,
I,
Peter. We'll
I
have
I
to
want
roll
to say
into the
this,
next
right?
segment. Go ahead.
Um, there's something that Gabriel keep repeating, and I don't want us to be remiss by now. I want to emphasize that he keeps talking about being intentional, being purposeful, being intentional, right? The reason why we are where we are is because these people are being intentional. Their aim was never to come to the country to uplift the people. What distinguishes Cummings from these people is he's coming with his own money already. He's not coming to government broke looking to, like, I can't wait. It's like Joe Howard. It's our turn. It's our turn now. It's our turn.
Yep.
Like, that's not what leaders. That's not how leaders talk. These people are hungry and greedy. They've gone travel to other countries, and it's so how rich people who've worked really hard for the money live, and they say we want to live like that. That's what it is. But without having the talent and the skills to do that. So how did it do that? They would come in and take money from the country. That's it. The difference, the biggest difference between this man and them is he's coming with his own money for the first time. What money do these people have outside of government? They don't have money. They're coming for a different reason. Their purpose is different. So when you look at the intentionality of what people are doing, they're not. Yes, I believe in 2 years, because when you study other diagrams of other countries, they have done it in 3 years. You see great growth in 3 years because they were being intentional about it. Again, I go back to South Korea. These people actually hire a think tank to see how can we best, what can we export. They actually started a export commission. What can we export to the world and bring money in? We're not doing that in Liberia. All this guy is doing is spending money. He go built one on Jesus cross and put 3,000 kids in it. In a little, it's not. I don't know what that thing is.
Look, man.
Right? I don't know what that is. Right? And I want to say this. And he came with poor, and he came. Listen, I was poor. We were all poor. Cummings grew up in Point Four. The difference is we worked really, really, really hard. We didn't have the time to kick the soccer ball. We didn't have time to go waste his money. He's not the only. What is he doing for the poor kids right now? Right now, there are kids who are poor right now. What is he doing to elevate them? Since he comes from that background, I come from that background. Cummings comes from that background. If you really care and your poverty really matter, what are you doing about the other people, children just like you, to lift them up? You're doing nothing. All you're doing is spending money. Oh, you built schools, you built this. Yeah, well, whose money? That's not where you put the money. You're misappropriating money. All you're doing is spending money. When we're going to stop paying back loans? What are you doing to generate money and start begging for money?
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are some of the issues that we continue to talk about, right? And just to end this segment till we come to our last and final segment here. Um, you know, Sufficient time for leadership success has to do with planning. This government did not come in with a plan. This government did not have an agenda. And all of the things that are happening today are those things that we warned you about. But here we are now, right? And so this is why we must work harder to be able to change that. Finally, on that segment, look, 6 years, 5 years is enough of a time. If a president or those who are in government now, the first term should be a term where you're doing things, you're accomplishing things, you're showing results because you want to be elected for a second term. If these people cannot show you now, over the past 5 years, that they are serious about changing this country, going into an election year for a second term, imagine if you make a mistake and you elect them where they don't have to look forward to being re-elected again. What could potentially happen? That's all you need to know. But we'll be right back on the second segment. We're going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we'll go into the breakdown of Mr. Cummings' recent address to the nation, where we'll pull some parts and then have Miata speak to our people in Bond County and then try to do our closing for tonight's show as well. So
My
stay,
favorite
don't
part
go
of it.
far. We'll be right back.
Straight up.
This is what science L-I-B-U.
They would like it.
The system fighting, my people, the system shaking. We want to the teaching, but they now one listening. The system fighting, my people, the system shaking. We want to the teaching, but they now one listening.
Work on economics or work on so two things. One is the economics for sure. And to do that, though, your profession, the rule of law, corruption, right, in the courts, in the government.
Then there is the problem with the soul of our nation. The absence, especially at the level of national leadership, of courage to do the right things for the right reasons, and of honor, integrity, honesty, and truthfulness. Today, I invite the national leaders of our country, political leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders, legal and community leaders, all leaders, to be enjoined in the cleansing of our nation's soul. The duty falls on all of us to become better examples, because the peaceful and prosperous future we seek depends on the values we embrace and nurture. Most importantly, our children need us to provide them with better examples, as our society needs us to become leaders of higher standards. And for the good of the country, focus on the future.
Wow. Our country needs us to become better leaders. Our children of Liberia need us to become better leaders. Mr. Cummings made this address about a couple of days right after the bogus political witch hunt of a trial was ended. He spoke directly to Liberian people so passionately, so fiercely, strongly about things that matters the most. And as part of that clip, he talked about cleansing the soul of our country and calling on leaders from all across the aisle to be able to work together to see how best, we can give our people the type of leadership they deserve as well. On this segment, we want to, quickly break down that speech and take different points from it or make it our own and talk about, some of the things that were said. And then in the end, see how best we can speak to our people in Bond County and then close up as well. So let's jump right into it. So we all witnessed the bogus political trial by individuals who were system characters. And right after the Omni report, and we brought in, Sherry Blair, as Cummings did, and that particular report came up. You had a lot of people running haywire on social media and spinning their own interpretation. One of the things that we're consistent with, we say, you know what, when somebody of that magnitude gets involved, a credible firm, a reputable institution is able to put together facts, evidences, and be able to introduce it into a case that should not have been a case in the first place. We sense what was coming, and rightfully so, it was there. Um, Gabriel, there to you. Mr. Cummings says something, and I want to say this. He said, rich as our country is, blessed to be Liberians. Liberians do not, well, rich as our country is, blessed to be Liberians, or Liberians do not deserve to be poor and constantly looking for handouts. So it goes back into a couple of discussions we've all really had. And, by the way, one thing I admire about Mr. Cummings, not because of supporting, he seems to be the only one in the opposition that will always talk about the plight of the Liberian people and try to put some things about solutions, right, and how we can make the country better. When you hear something like that, Gabriel, what does that bring to mind? And just from that particular speech, what is it that you take from it, and what type of signal is Mr. Cummings sending?
Yeah, Duke, thank you again. That is another great question. And I think it goes back to, again, to what I said earlier. That is, you just mentioned that. If you want to see intentionality in somebody, it takes consistency, right? He's the only opposition person who is pointing out the things that are wrong with our country and continue to talk about them, going to the market women, talking to them, right? That is somebody who is intentional. If you're intentional about something, you are persistent about solving it. And if you're persistent about solving it, you will continue to face that problem. And when you continue to face that problem, you continue to talk about it until something happens. That's what he continued to do. Now, uh, you're right about one thing that he said. Liberians should not be Liberians should not be poor, right? We cannot have the level of resources we have, and yet still as small as we are, 5 million people, just over 5 million people, right? With that level of resources, but yet we continue to see poor Liberians who are poor. I always say this: that like probably 2% of the people control the wealth in our country. The rest of them, everybody else, are dirt. When I mean dirt poor, abject poverty.
Yeah.
Like when you can go in the country and see it with your own eyes, right? With that level of resources we have, that. And one thing I like to challenge people on, we have talent, Duke. We have talented Liberian people, right?
Mhm.
With the level of resources we have, with the level of talent that we have, there is no reason why we cannot be the best country in Africa. There is no reason why we cannot be. There is no reason why Liberia cannot be a middle income state. There is no reason why we cannot be, I keep saying this, we cannot be a financial hub in Africa, a tourist hub, a financial hub, a tech hub that people should go to, right? And again, the reason why we'll continue to be in this position is because we continue to paint this narrative that as you is something that you always say. Few group of people have controlled the conversation, and they have controlled the mindset of Liberians, the population of Liberian, that we continue to perpetuate this narrative, and we have bought into it. But Liberia is endowed, right? Liberia is endowed with resources. We're endowed with talent. This level of discussion is what keeps other people outside of that political realm. Because the moment you start talking about politics, you start attacking some Liberian, people get afraid and say, listen, I'm doing very well here. I would rather do that. So it keep that talent out of Liberia. So what it end up doing, it put the country in the hands of these very few people who continue to suppress people and control the resources of the country. but Liberia is very much endowed. There's jobs that can be creating jobs in our country. As I keep saying, you bring somebody who is intentional, it would take 3 year tops, 18 months.
Mm.
You will start seeing effect. You will start seeing companies coming to create jobs. You will see Liberian change the
Vision.
economy changing. Right. So that's I wanted to say that, but there is he is intentional. That's how you know the president is intentional. You don't have to listen to. He doesn't have to tell you who he is. Just look at what he does. It's just that simple. Thank you.
Absolutely. And intentional leadership, vision, finding those things that are necessary to grow our economy as well. Peter, let me go to you before I come to the tough talking and powerful Miata King. Peter, when I read through the speech, there's something that I came across. And I think I want you to expand on it. As the economy says, some critics believe we should stand in some imaginary line of leadership succession and take turns to keep our country corrupt and our people poor. Said this mindset is offensive. I thought about you and I thought about a lot of the things that we've been critical of. When you hear something like that from Mr. Cummings, what does it mean to you? And what is, right, the impact, right? That how can this be translated to voters, right? And how should this encourage young people, Liberians who are struggling in this economy, to think differently about leadership in 2023?
So again, Duke, great point. So I was going to take another point, but the one you just pointed out is even more powerful, right? I was going to talk about how there are people who Cummings talked about how people in Liberia, these leaders, so-called leaders, take public service as a chance to be served and to abuse people's trust, the trust of our people, right? They want to be kings after they get this position. But what you just pointed out is even more powerful, right? They there are people in Liberia who feels like they have a monopoly on running our country. And it goes back, I want to start at what Gabriel talked about. How there are a lot of Liberians who do not even engage in the political talk because they don't want to be called gay. They don't want someone cussing their mom. They're like, I'm doing well. I'm just stay out of this. I call those people conversational terrorists. They have nothing to offer. So therefore, they will destroy your character if you try to speak truth to power, because their livelihood depends on these people being in those positions. Conversation terrorists. And this is why sometimes you'll see me on social media and Facebook will block me, because if there's one thing that I despise and I will go, that the sword I'm willing to fall on is fighting bullies. Our country, for democracy to function, it is a marketplace of ideas. So when you are artificially silencing people, that's why if you look in the American Constitution, the first amendment to the Constitution, the very first amendment to the Constitution, freedom of speech. This goes back to the common law of England, the Magna Carta. They understood how important people adding their voices was. So they put that in there before they even signed the Constitution as law in this country. What Mr. Cummings is saying is that these bullies, these imaginary gods, right? These demigods believe that when you start talking to the first thing and say, "Oh, who know you?" And then they hide behind the title. I was this minister of this. Minister of what? You're minister in the poorest country in the world. You're lifting no one. There's zinc houses all around you. What are you talking about? Oh, you don't even know street in Liberia name. What does that matter? How's that lifting the people? What? When the last time you were in Liberia? Oh, the people who are there. What are they doing for the people? You're in government for the greater good. What good are you lifting? Who are you lifting? Right? They have this entitlement, and they feel like they can silence you. Listen to Moali talk. Listen to how flippant boycott was recently when he spoke to the reporters. I said what I said. Dude, you can't even sit up straight in the seat. You're the last person that should be rude to anyone. But he's taking cues from the people who are controlling him, his handlers, like Costa. Listen to how they talk with this arrogance. What are you arrogant about? What have you earned? What have you done? Who have you lifted? You're on the radio. You criticize people, the government, rightly so, when people are suffering. So you fill that vacuum. That's what you did. What's your talent? And now you feel like you're a god. That line of Cummings saying imaginary line of leadership, that was so powerful. He was speaking directly to boycott. If Cummings were really greedy, he will wait his turn because this is what these people do. He would have said, "Let me be number two," but he said, "No, that's the urgency of now." You know why? Because he drives in Liberia. He sees how poor these people are. The Liberia I was in a month ago, and a couple of weeks ago. Our people need relief now. When America suffered, they came up with this when they went through this thing called the Great Depression in the 1930s and early 40s. They came up with this thing, right? The three R's: relief, recovery, and reform. You have to first help the people. You don't do it by spending money. You put mechanisms in place that will lift the country so that people can help themselves. That's what you do. Relief. Okay. Recovery. You get the things because they already were industrialized. You get those industries running. How did America do it? They turn it into a war economy. It was a demand economy. This is something companies want to do. So you manufacture industries. You pump money into industry. You practice mercantilism. That's what you do. Okay. And then you reform. You change laws. You make sure that nepotism is not the way of the land, the rule, the the way things are being done. It's not the norm in the country. You make sure tribalism is not how people get hired or being part of a political party. He said that. You systematically change things intentionally.
Yeah.
Intentionally. Those things just don't happen over time. So what he was saying was these people think you should take turns in taking advantage of our people. That my time, that your time. No, no, you don't do that. Our heart bleeds when we see those people. Honest people see those things and want to spit, and we're disgusted by it. This is not how it should be. It has nothing to do with education versus not education. It has to do with what's right and what is immoral. What those
Mm.
people are doing is immoral.
Thank
Oof.
you, Pete.
Couldn't have landed
Look,
on a better
you
note.
you could
Yeah.
have said it better. And look, this is what unapologetic is all about. We want our people, our co-hosts, our panelists to bring their raw emotions. Because when it comes to speaking about Liberia, I don't think it should be filtered. We have to be different. Collectively, we feel differently inside. Our approach, unique, right? We can't be all one-way thinkers. We have to bring that diversity in us to solve those issues in Liberia. Miara, I'm going to turn this part to you. Before I go into that part, I want you to prepare yourself, and I want all of us to just, you know, go in a quiet state for a second. And there's a reason why I'm going to put this up. Second here for me. All right. So hang on. Let me go ahead and actually use the other one there, and then we'll come back here real quick. But Miara, the reason why I think it is important for our people to go back to these moments, right, and actually reflect, is because we have come a long way as a country, and those people who have actually destroyed our country can no longer continue, right, to do those things that they feel that they need to do to drive good people away. And so while I something here, Pete, let me go to Gabriel here if you can pardon me a little bit because I want to get this thing up and see here. This is really this is absolutely important because we have to we have to start showing our people why they should vote for people who we believe can transform our country, right? And not be heartless in doing that. So I'm having a little bit of problem in pulling this. But however, yes, the image that I was looking to, to show him here. And let me try one more time, and hopefully I will be able to get that up here shortly. All right, so I can. All right, so Miata, what I was trying to do is I was trying to bring an image up of Mr. Cummings' mother. And I think, do you all recall the time when this bogus trial was going on, and Mr. Cummings had asked for an excuse because his mother was sick and he wanted to be able to come and see her, right? Something that he does frequently. And they went to the extent of refusing to allow this man to go and see his ailing mother, right? They refused. They refused to allow this man to go and see his mother, all in the name of politics, all in the name of hypocrisy, all in the name of being evil. Miara, I want you to close out this segment to directly speak to our mothers. But before I do that, let me go ahead and take apart from the last address by Mr. Cummings. He said to all Liberian mothers, in you I see my mother. I am running to help ease the heavy burden unfairly placed on your shoulders. This is a man who understands because his mom was selling the point four area to send him to school. This is a man who understands what our mothers are facing in the country. The market women in Bone County, all over, are facing because those marketplaces, there are opportunities for them to raise money to sell to send their children to school. They spend all that time, send their children to high school, put them in college and universities to graduate, no jobs. Those children become part of victimized by the same political system, right, that have been created for few individuals who conducted the bogus political trial. Mera, you got to tell Mr. Cummings' story to our mothers in Bone County. You have to tell them that when he was addressing the nation, he identifies with them because his mom is just like them. She went through the same agony and the suffering to sell in the market to make sure she could afford to send her son to school. Look what he became today. This is your time, and I want you to speak directly to our people in Bone County and all across Liberia. Talk to them, Biada. Let them know.
Duke, ihoi. Bongane bla nyaga ngoha be. Nyaka lu miara. Nyang be ka lu miara ngakwapo belfane. Ye be kwa mu ngaha la gwe ngaba gwi kwe ngabai. Nyang be miara te ni ngalai. Ni ka a ning bla te ngalai. Ma won gradu. Mai ko kwa a ponu to nu. Ma ha Kenya won gradu I ha grandboy who no one daga ma Mr. Cummings ka ga gwen ba nyaga here ni kwe ni ka po a nu por nya pa ma ngbe ni wo ka po ma wo ka ma e ku kre po ku le nu du wo ka kwa no one te e ka lo le la ku po na la brenga po na po ngene ngu gwe kre e ka lo ne e mo ne ngai nya lo ha bonga le ne ngai kre po Liberia ku lai du hu po nga ji nga de kre po e ka lo ne ku po na e ka lo ne nga po na because ne pe mo la mu pe ne mo la mu e nga go ku kre po ku le ne da mo ku le ne da mo ku mu e mo a get Liberia ne nga ji nga de kre po duga ni hu te aba ken la president te aba ken la president and in fact no we ve ga president Mr. Kwame he ga president ga po ni po Liberia ne nga ba ke noa dra neka na dra ga da vokponi noa dia vokponi ka lonika because noa Joseph Boakai nu beneda yure nu ne daga ma joy hawa tere diga neka noa la ka president Ghana diga neka noa la diga neka no la de no hokponi Mr. Cummings akponi nenga ba amwe kpo nenga de to potong amwe kpo nenga ku wonu ga ku pele ku mo ko ga legri ko ga ki hinju ko legri e koko yo koko no Mr. Cummings nyedia iwe tenka ba kaina itenka ba kaina bonga ne loninga ka nena nwa je lekaka no nga daga ma Mr. Cummings ai moka nga ba ke moy agre nga ba ke moy apa moy jonala no nga pele nga meka no nga gay ke diga ke ga no he meda kadu no nga amoka te par ebola te palai jela no he ga na o jela no he pa do po vo pa do monde ga po vo pa do kaba te ga po age ga voru kama vo pa do hanga te ga po age ga voru kama ke amwai mwa la po do ga de ku ke ku po nai amwai Liberia ho po to Liberia nenga kwa nga ku ke po wala ikoko yo koko ni iwo ka Liberia hu because Liberia wo di kana ya ga po kona na ikamoro na maongoi nya ye be ai pa Liberia December na maongoi mane po ka loni ka niaka because diga ka Liberia winga da mo la resources ka Liberia and no nge mo again Liberia nga diga mo ma hane ku ga mo ma hane Liberia nga diga mo e mo age kwanga a kalenu mane ku wo iga teba mane ku wo iga Liberia hu because nenga ya na ka nenga bo da ngnyang ho du do because ka kwa ku pene ba ko ngatu kwa ku pene an ko kawa ka ba ko ngaba ku menu ke Mr. Cummings bo nu keta lepo nu ngai nenga ba ko nga ku kre Mr. Cummings nyeda ku kre ku ka tono bonga de bla ka ngai la bo an ko ka ba ke da ka ye yo nga ku ka ba ku ka lo ne le ka iga ku wa menga kwa gay ku ba pa wi go ba ku muka ke ku ka menga ke nwanga dia ku ka menga ke da me ka kula potuka nyaka ngo abonga ne no da ga o le ya ga be kwa nai ke kwa menga ke nwa kwa ku pona kwa menga ke dia kwa ka kula he nyanga ba bonga ne lo nyanga kwa brapane kwa ka kula he ka boru ga Mr. Cummings mamoba because no pe Liberia me kala ni hu kama Mr. Cummings kama bu benu hu Liberia ba he kwa to nu da he le ka ge be me da kadu nu da he le ka age be me da kadu Liberia mamoba kande ngani kre kama juka Mr. Cummings a me da ka TB hospital ima juga a me da ka na current hospital gadu lo-fi a me da ka na hanga e va pa imonjo ga de ga po vongwe monde ga po vongwe ka ba de ga po na maongwe age nwanga diga haka agre ka blarka kwa podu anenga ku kre nre ga ngu he ku la ka ju nu kre la ka ju no ha nu to no lepo ika to nu ika kono ke global damage alone ku mama ba alone ka mama ba alone mama ba because anwe Liberia ikokpa a Liberia ko ga heke Liberia to ponga ke ku ko heke Liberia to ponga ke Liberia nga diga mo ka kula ka nya ka hieng ba bonga ne lo manya ka kula ka ni ga de bare ne ga je de ni ko no we ga we pa no hu ba ni na ka Liberia go me je da vo pa because apa ba pui no ke nga do lewa pa amwai Liberia he lai to because Liberia ka ni hu vo Liberia no we ka ja apu in 2016 no nga mo ale kwa mo gwinga daga ma consistency ga kwa grupu me pa ya mo ika ga ya me no ho ngwe ka na ake ka to nu ga pa po pe he ga ba ke je apa depo like bropona apa depo like bropona agekuloi like bureau worker alloy le en kuloi kale alloy le like bureau nga daga ka loni ko ba mu fra table like bureau gana nga e bureau daga gana ne taka mu nyedia te ko daga pala Ghana daga pala like bureau dwaka li Dubai nga dwaka li London nga daga pala like bureau daga pana de genya ka like bureau te kutanga ku ko boy like pel Mr. Kwame anwe like bureau dikala kame ka black bakka nyagang ka bonga ne lu miara nyaga lu ba tuanga ga me ga lu ka pona nyaga ya me ka bladka rai la bro me ka ga lu ni me ka ga ku kre ku me ka ga to like bro po. So Duke, thank you for having me on this platform and me talking to my people.
Miara Dakina. Look, fellows listening, I think wow. This brings joy to my heart. We're so fortunate to have you on here. We're so fortunate to have you as part of this team that's fighting to inform our people. What you bring, what you're capable of, can change the narrative. It can change the lives of our people. I don't know what to say, but this was moving. This was touching, and I appreciate you. Thank you so
That was
much.
beautiful. That was
That
beautiful.
was. Um, Fellows listening, we got some work to do, and so I think today we had an amazing time on the show here as we try to bring this to an end. I would like for us to take at least 1 or 2 minutes so we can just do a closing point, and then to
Okay.
bring the podcast to an end here.
Are
So
we? Are people calling
yes,
in? No.
um, well,
Are we
so
going
yeah,
to
let's
take calls?
see.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
let's try to give, like, 5 minutes. If you want to call in, go ahead and dial quickly on 443-226-2319. Again, if you want to call in, go ahead and dial 443-226-2319. Let's wait and see if a call comes through, and if not, we can go ahead and actually wrap. So if you need a call
Yeah,
in, go ahead and dial there.
yeah, Duke. I think
Yeah.
we can speak close if they come in, we stop and then
Yeah,
do that.
yeah,
If
great.
not, we
Yeah,
just move
absolutely. And
on.
if a call
Yeah.
come in, we go absolutely. So let's go there. And this time, Peter, let me go ahead and just hear your closing point.
Yeah. So again, this is uh this is wonderful. It's always good to add our voice to the conversation in our country. For far too long, we allowed certain people, only a group of people who felt like they should speak for us and tell us and direct us and tell us what was going to happen with us because we were, like Mr. Cummings, chasing our dreams outside of government. For a lot of us, government is not the end all be all. As a matter of fact, it's the last thing on our minds. Um, but when I watched my father die, like he did, um, it changed me. When I go home and watch how my people, my family is still living, and the people around me and the abject poverty, it changed me. And I said to myself, I'm going to speak. And as I started to investigate, I saw that there was one person who was closest to what I believed in, how a country should be ran from what I learned, and it was Mr. Cummings. That's why I started to support him. Not because of any tribe, because he's educated. No, it's because he had a vision that aligned with what I thought should work. Um, I want to close by saying this. Mr. Cummings said something in his speech. After we watch how resilient Liberians are, after these mothers sent their children to school with the last penny they had, working the market, sleeping on the floor with them, right? Then what? What jobs are they supposed to get? They're supposed to go sleep with a government official for money for them to make it. Where are the jobs? The government is the only employer in the country, almost the only employer in the country, or go work for some Chinese or Lebanese man. So why are they going to school? And our people are some of the most resilient people, and they're so passionate about learning. Okay, he said, Mr. Cummings said, I watched that. We need to do something about that. to change that. Okay, and then I watch people try to bully that man. Listen, I want to close by saying this: if you sit around and watch a person, this has nothing to do with politics. I know what it is to be bullied. I got bullied because I was a Liberian in this country that I came to, because of the way I talk, the way I look, where I was from. Okay, I know how it feels. If you sit back and allow someone to bully a person who's only trying to help, and you can do something about it, you're a coward. It doesn't matter who you support, why you support. But when you see people going after a person, like they're going after Mr. Cummings, and you don't sit back and say, why? What is this man's doing that these people hate so much? And you let it happen, you're a coward. You're a coward. And there's something not okay about being a coward. You need to stand up for what's right. You need to stand up for Liberians. You need to ask questions and get our people asking questions. You need to defend those who are trying to help out. Business as usual is always going to give us what we've gotten. It's up to you. You can either keep it the way it is and let the system continue as it is, or you can do something about it. That's why I'm adding my voice. I hope more people do the same. Do not let the conversation terrorist shut you up. Don't do that. Put something on the line. If you're a real nationalist and you really love Liberia, do something. Say something. Motivate someone. Thank you, Duke.
Wow, Pete, that's always powerful as well. Let me go there to Gabriel. Gabriel, have your say.
Dude, thank you. And Mieta, man, that was a beautiful message. Just listening to it, I can't understand Pele, but I just know that I just knew that you were speaking with passion from the heart. So I think this is another great discussion we had today. And you know, the message has always been clear. I think what we all want for Liberia is a country, a 21st country, that we can build a 21st country that is equitable, that is inclusive for all Liberians. And I believe that is the kind of Liberia that not only we want, but the kind of Liberia that Mr. Cummings want. Uh, you know, the country that we have right now, I think what we have been missing since maybe since the 80s is, as I always said, intentional leadership. You know, intentional leadership of you know, creating jobs in the country, jobs that are that comes with dignity, because through entrepreneurship and having job, that's how people gain their dignity. People attach their lives to it. That's how people move up the economic ladder, and that's the kind of country that I think Mr. Cummings is. I believe Mr. Cummings is actually fighting for, and all of us. That's the kind of country we want to see. And having these discussions, sometimes sometimes before it used to get frustrating when people tell you, Mr. Cummings, hasn't been in government, or you don't know anything about Liberia. But sometimes I think sometimes those statements or comments do come from an ignorant place. And one thing that I would urge every one of us here, and those of us that are listening as well, is that who believe in the vision of Mr. Cummings, is that you never want to get shy away from having those, telling people the vision that Mr. Cummings has for Liberia, but also continue to have those discussions and correcting people, or telling them the truth about his leadership, what he has done, what he wants to do for the country. And that again, this is why we're all here. This is the kind of country. I always say this: some of us are not here for jobs in Liberia. The jobs that are in Liberia that can pay me what I do is like probably none, right? What we want to see is a country that, as I said, that is inclusive, that is equitable, that is a middle income country, that Liberian can live a sustainable lifestyle, go to college, get out of college, graduate, get a job in a country, and be able to take care of yourself and take care of your family and pursue your dreams, however, whatever they are, right? Unfortunately, right now we don't have that country. We've seen what the previous leadership has been, and we know the group of people that are still vying right now, trying to come back into that leadership realm, trying to do the same thing that they've done before. So for us, we want something different, and we know what that, you know, different strategy is or that different leadership is. And I believe that's what Mr. Cummings bring to 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 the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel, as well. Beata, this is your closing point, and remarkable job here today. Once again, unapologetic continues to set itself apart, and I tell people we're different. We bring something fresh, something completely different to this space. And when it comes to selling the message of Mr. Cummings and talking about issues impacting Liberia, I think we have what it takes in terms of the co-host or panelists on here as well. But Miata, let's hear you. Have your closing point.
Okay, do I still want to talk to my people in Pele? Can I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Ngango papo kapo na ba. Kukre po kuka gweng ba. Kuka yunga ba. Gabriel, Duke, Pire, Nya, Miera. Kuka gweng ba ge kupa kukla kwa o kunala kwa. Kwa ngwe ati library ngwe bu ngwe ati library. Winga da mulla kwa ngwelo kupa kwa kubene ngai lawo. Po kukpo nwanga dia winga da mulla empower. Kunwanga haya ka because ka ngwe mbesa komi ya ngwe age nwiru kre make kanga age tina tuapa ka kpen ka po ka ba he ka loni tela ko bo mu ka po ni we to ka loni tela ko bo mu ka nena Joseph Bwaga ni to da nwanga diga leke ka nena Joseph Bwaga aka gomoti hu bakba ka gomoti hu aka po gomoti hu pok bera yuene kuru kwa ka banga aka banga duwa bera yue mama buma jaw ha ku lenga noi tu la bro jaw ha ka so ka ba ko ka duwe ha wote de tu te mu la dia nyete te ga ge de niaga me mu ga de nei ta ke ga ja ku te ga ha ku niaga me mu ga de enga moika bonga ne bla ngai ga miera ga me sa komi apu be no hu me kwa mo ha ba gwen bai awa ga nyang ngai ga miera ga me ga kwa ba tai kwa ba mai ke me sa komi iga de ba gen ku nga dia ya ngwe nya iga ko ma ding nei en kwa ba ke moi ma ke yu ga da ku nga em nyang na la me sa komi age vo ba ge ga hala du hu mo ma wai ga hala tu hu ga pa po ni la ba Duke Peter Gabriel nyang miera kuga ha gwen ba gwen febo gwen ha kwa lu ning mai ka ke wu ngai ga ko ngwa ti la biwo kwa lu do ka ma mo ba ka lu ni ma mo ba ku lu ni da hu la biwo ku ga no hu ba yu nga ba kwa ngwa pe ko ku nia ke da ka nia ka so nga pa ha po bonga ne bla ka he ka wo ro ma ka longang bonga ne lo manya mo kwa do ko na ta na bonga ne wo ka ma gbere nga mo ma wo ne ma and akpe we work up for my pum America aku kojo America ang reto agbe reto ka bladka ka he ka mama rai ku maunga rai ku loni maunga rai like pro maunga rai Mr. Komi maunga age ingon nwangai nutopo ku mose ga ka be ga mose mose ten ila eswe iku nwangai rai moma age lu ingan nuangai kwa ije so Mr. Komi kutega kwa ngwa teta ba kutega Mr. Komi ba ku mose ka he ka mama. Thank you, Duke, for having me talk to my people on your platform.
Thank you, Miata. Again, you get the applause. Listen to me, man. I think we've actually done a wonderful job on the show today, like we always do. Let me say a few things here if I come to the closing here from our end. So, Unapologetic will be here weekly, okay? And let me break it down to you. Usually we run the life of our Unapologetic page, but we have some issues with it. So we'll run it on the ABC Broadcasting Corporation. That's where it's gonna be. So here's the thing. I want you to take down this information. On Wednesdays, right? 2 Wednesdays in a month, right? The second Wednesdays and the third Wednesday, we have Unapologetic at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time online. 2 Saturdays a month. The first Saturday and the last Saturday in the month, we are live on radio, Sky 107.1, like we did last week. So Next week, Saturday, we're going to be on Sky 107.1. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, US time, and 2 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time in Liberia. We're working on making it all, to have all of our episodes full time on radio and multiple network. It's going to come, trust me. But in the interim, we just want to share this with you and just let all of you know that we need your support. ANC partisans, get on these live, share these live videos, encourage us because we have work to do. And when you can come and share and bring more people on, Miata speaks to our people in Bond County, it helps our message to go across. And you watched our debut in Morovia on Sky FM last week, and I know we had a lot of positive feedback from the Lions as well. So we want to appreciate all of you for taking the time tonight to follow us, to listen to the podcast. Trust me, we know the sacrifices, the commitment, and we just want to say thank you so much. On that note, there's something I want to close up with. Mr. Cummings said, we believe that our children should be able to find jobs upon graduation after their parents sacrifice themselves to send their children to school. I'm aware of this. We are. We talk about the market women. These women go into those market stalls under the hot sun during the rainy season to sell bitter ball, pepper, okra, to find school fees, to pay for the children's school fee, high school, and then college. When they graduate, there's no job. We've been singing this song for a long time. Some of those who've been in public office for 42 years had every opportunity to fix this. They did not fix it. But yet and still to come to you and tell you that they're the solution. How can we seek solutions in people who are responsible for the economic nightmare that we see in that country? We need to think differently about Liberia. By thinking differently about Liberia, we need to make sure that we're electing our best people and putting them in position to give our people jobs, to give our market women the opportunity to sell their goods, to make the ordinary Liberian part of the economy, wherein a few people can not only be the ones enjoying the loots or enjoying the country. We need a balance. We need improvement across all levels. This is what Mr. Cummings brings. And I want to tell all of you on Unapologetic, we will tell that story. We want our people to listen. We want all of you to hear us out. We want you to listen to the facts, to listen to the substance. And we know we're right because more than 42 plus years, something's been missing in Liberia. And we cannot fix that something by electing the same people and giving them opportunity to lead. We need fresh ideas, we need vision, we need real change. Mr. Cummings is that change because he comes with all of the experience, all of the skill set needed to make sure that our people can get the type of leadership that they deserve. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure having all of you follow our podcast. Again, continue to share our podcast. Continue to contact your family members and let them know after we're done. Just continue to watch this because you might be able to learn from all of the things that we're doing. So ANC partisan,
Fellow partisan, now you won't begin you.
let's go.
HR my constants. ANC, somebody say ANC. Cummings, somebody say Cummings. ANC, somebody say ANC. Cummings, somebody say Cummings. We ready. Let's come and rally. We ready. Let's come and rally. We ready. Let's come and rally. We ready. ANC, ANC, we ready. We ready. ANC, we ready. We ready. ANC, we ready. We ready. You can call him the people just again, Tata. And I know why they making fuss. Like only you we can trust. Now you are over the you know. Come in so, more well. Come in so, more well. Come in so, more well. Now you are over the little. You are over the little. Come in so, more well. Come in so, more well. Come in so that you will let. Come in so.
And was inaugurated into office in 2018. The president has his vice president from Bond County, Her Excellency Madam Jua Howard Taylor. So I've come to the streets of Banga to sample the views of Liberians. And I have this man here. What's your name, sir? Speak out louder, please. What do you make of President George Weah's 4 years in power since he took over in 2017?
Because of 4 years in power, is looking at almost lives. I was cursed with people. Nothing to be a
If it's a curse, could you explain further?
I'll explain further. Recently, because we have to make library to be a charity home. Because people had the money in their pocket to pay a child school fee. And that's so big up. So you open the environment for people to work to pay their own children's school fees.
The president promised to fight corruption and gave the economy back to Liberians during his speech in 2018. Has he done so?
No, he failed on that. If all he promised